Hello and welcome to Organic Edible Garden. Today we're going to look at sowing our first seeds for our summer crops. And we're going to focus on tomatoes and peppers. It's important we put our seeds in now and they'll be ready round about Labour weekend or after. We aim to get our tomatoes and peppers in the ground roughly about Labour weekend when the ground temperature's warmed up. Any earlier and they'll struggle. Some of the important things you need for sowing seeds will be a good seed tray. These are just your standard seed trays with good drainage in the bottom. And I use them time and time again, but one of the important things is you must sterilise them between use. And I just dip them in a bath with a little bit of genol or bleach in. The other important things you need are your labels, a good marker pen, and something to make rows in your seed trays. And because the seed trays have large holes in them, we also use a bit of newspaper at the bottom so the dry soil doesn't fall through. The next most important thing when planting seeds is getting a good seed raising mix. You can buy organic seed raising mix now from hardware stores, but I like to make my own because it's cheaper and I think it's better. All you need is some good organic compost. The next thing we need to do is sieve it. And we just get a plastic sieve with about 10mm holes in it. It's really important that you don't use your own garden compost to make seed raising mix. There are so many seeds in it coming up over time and you might not be able to tell the difference between your own plants and the weeds. Now all we're left is pieces of larger twigs and a bit of pumice. But don't waste this. Throw it into your garden. It's a great form of carbon and it'll be a great mulch on top of the soil. What we're left with now is lovely fluffy seed raising mix. And it's important not to have big pieces in your mix. Not only do they cover the seed and prevent germination, but the roots of the plants can often lock onto them and make it hard to separate when pricking out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of fertilizer to our mix. It's really important we don't add a high nitrogen fertilizer. That's just going to give us lots of leaf growth and none of the roots, which we really want. So we're going to add a little bit of our volcanic rock dust to this. This will give us a balanced fertilizer, but it's also impregnated with beneficial fungus and bacteria which will help the seedlings grow. We're just going to mix it up by hand. The people who make this compost, Gardener's Choice, guarantee they heat it to such a high temperature it kills off any problems like Legionnaire's disease. But if you're unsure about the origin of your compost, it may pay to wear gloves. The next thing we're going to do is fill our tray. We're going to put newspaper in the bottom because they've got quite large holes. This will also keep some moisture in the seed tray. We're going to fill our seed trays reasonably full. They will sink down when they're watered. We want to give them as much soil for their roots to go down. And we'll just give them a little tap to settle the dirt. And that's ready now. The next job is to put rows in our seed tray. Now a seed tray this size, we can probably put about 6 rows in, depending on how many seeds you want to put in. You can use a bit of wood or a bit of doweling to make those, and they will give you even rows. Now even though you don't have a lot of seeds to put in, I'd still use a larger seed tray like this rather than a smaller punnet size. The reason is this will keep the moisture in and keep the even temperature, whereas the other one dries out so much quicker. In this case today, I'm just putting 4 rows in. Another really easy option is just using one of the angle irons that they use when you put on gibboard. The next thing to do is write labels for our seeds. In this case, I'm just using little bits of plastic, but you can use ice block sticks or any other type you like. The other important thing is always putting a date on the back of your label so you know when you planted those seeds. The reason we do this is because after 2 weeks and they haven't come up and we check the date, those seeds might not be viable. We've got 4 types of tomatoes and 2 types of peppers we're planting today. And they're the old-fashioned varieties, like your beefsteak, your moneymaker, your Russian reds and your red cherries. The next thing we're going to do is plant our tomato seeds. And these tomato seeds are ones we saved from last year's tomatoes. And since March, they've been kept in the fridge at about 4 degrees. Not only does it keep the seeds fresher, but it breaks the dormancy when you plant them, makes them think it's spring and helps with germination. The seeds you buy in the shop usually come from overseas, but if you save your own seeds, they get stronger year after year. If you're not saving your own seeds, there's a few local good growers who save their own seeds and sell online. Check those guys out. It's important when you put them in, you evenly space them. They do lock together, and being a little bit hairy, the tomato seeds, they like to hold each other when you're transplanting them, so it's best to keep them separated. I find using a little stick like this just moves the seeds along and keeps them evenly spaced. Put a few Russian red in. Even though I'm putting in more than I possibly need for a home gardener, anything excess you have you can swap with other people or give to community groups. And now onto the peppers. Two favourite are bird's eye. It's got all round one which is easy to dry. And finally the ornamental black olive chili. Looks stunning, great for the beneficial insects, and it's got a nice hot black chili. Once that's done, now we have to cover them. We're going to cover them with some of our seed raising mix because it's nice and fine, and we'll cover them just slightly over the seeds, not too deep. When we do water this in, more soil will come over the top. Now that's done and ready to be watered. I'm not going to water the seed tray from above. We can often move the seeds and even compact the soil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill a tub with water, and I'm going to add some seaweed which will help with the damping off. I'll just soak this tray in that tub until all the water is absorbed. We pop in the bath for at least a quarter of an hour to let all the water absorb. But you don't want to put too much water in your bath or a lot of the seeds will just float on out. Here's a seed tray of tomatoes we put in about 2 weeks ago. They've been sitting on a heat pad and they're doing really well. And you can see how evenly they've germinated. Now in another week when we do pick it out, this will make it so much easier to separate them.